It's incredibly superficial, and it's rather sad when you consider the people making the choices to put the various programs on. Those programs are feeding the mindset of the person who's watching it, and it's more garbage food for your mind. It's like eating junk food, and like reality shows and so forth, and that encourages people. They think that that's the reality to live at. And the people who are programming, they're concerned only with the money, the bottom line. Like, people want to eat junk food, let's give them junk food. We're making more money. We don't care about that. Let's pollute the waters. What do we care? So we get hit with a fine, and it's cost of doing business. And we still come out cheaper, even though we're polluting the waters. Let's cut down the trees. Those are the lungs of the world. Let's just take our breathing capacity away as long as we can make money. And that's the whole mindset of the industry, and not just the acting industry, almost all business. It's just the bottom line. And there's a dire need for human beings to move into a different dimension. And there are those people that are moving away from the commercial, superficial mindset into a deeper look. And I do think the 60s was an attempt at that. In the 60s, the young kids didn't want to do what their parents did. They didn't want to work a job that they hated, just to make money, to buy things. Arthur Miller's play, The Death of a Salesman, is a commentary on the fallacy of the American dream. And so the kids in the 60s just wanted to have something that had quality or meaning. So they went to India, they meditated. The Beatles were a very good example. That was a good light for young people. And then it's much more complicated than that. And so the 60s became an excuse for indulgence in sex and drugs, with kind of an excuse that we're on a spiritual quest, if you will. And so by the time the 80s came, they all shaved off their beards, left the communes, and went back to Madison Avenue. But then it comes around again. So when you hit the 90s, you now start to have people who are trying. They see we're polluting the air, polluting the water, polluting people's minds. There's got to be something more than wars. I mean, wars have been around for thousands of years, and you would think that human beings have learned something. They haven't. And there's a reason. So a lot of people are saying there's got to be another way. So they move into meditation. And that also has its traps and its flaws, but it's at least an attempt to move away from the superficiality that the television presents to people. So, and I do watch television. I study it, really. I love to watch the commercials and just see the mindset behind that commercial. The mindset, if you listen close to the voiceovers, and the actors that do voiceovers are very proficient. When you listen, they're able to get the subtle, they're very dexterous vocally, and they're able to get the right intentions, of the cheeseburger, and with the coffee, get the right voice for the coffee guy. You can almost smell the coffee. And it's just to get people to buy and get things that they don't really need. But there are people who are moving, trying as best they can to move into a deeper dimension. And so meditation is coming more and more into focus. I mean, how much money, how much drugs, how much sex can you have? And it comes to a point where you begin to say, there's got to be more to life than that. And there is. There really, really is. But to get to that place, it's a very slippery slope. But it's much better to have people moving into a spiritual quest. And I'm not talking about organized religions, which basically comfort me. If I go to church and everybody else is there and I'm comforted and I feel it, but nothing radical changes in my psyche. A lot of people go to church, they go to the mosques, the shuls, and what have you, but in their personal life, nothing much has changed. They're still as competitive and greedy to get things and violent psychologically. So a lot of young people are moving away from that kind of organized religion into something, and that is what they tried to do in the 60s. And I do think the Beatles made a really good contribution in the sense of, because they were icons, uh, to go and meditate. And so I think more and more, and the people are looking for the right kind of meditations. Um, because there are meditations where you can do lots of things. There are about 112 different kinds of meditations, all kinds of mantras and breathing and all kinds of stuff, which to me is at least the first step, because the psyche loves to have something to do. So I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to drink and all that. But I need something to do. So some guy comes along and says, I'm a guru, I'm, from India or wherever, and I've taken LSD and I've had some, insights, and I'll tell you what to do. And so if I'm a seeker, I'm very, very happy to have an authority that I can look up to and follow. And that's a beginning. But anyone who's really been there will tell you, there are no authorities. You have to be a light to yourself. If you can't be a light to yourself, you're just doing the same what everybody's doing, just looking for a follower. And it takes tremendous courage to really start to have that kind of independence, if you will. Because the psyche is so built over thousands of years to look to authorities, to teachers, to someone to tell me what to do. So I think gradually, as human beings move more into that atmosphere, the television programming will change. And you do have some television programming that has changed and is classing it up. And I do think, like Channel 13, for example, tries to bring in a more quality programming, but that's rare. Most of the programming is, it's that song. It's 500 channels and there's nothing on. Whatever that. What's his name sings from New Jersey. Yeah.